Brunswick Group Therapy Podcast.
Welcome everybody to a special edition of Brunswick Group Therapy. We're taking the podcast live in the studios of BAT TV, and I'm here with my cohort, Lucas.
Hey everybody.
And we are very pleased and very excited to have with us today Clement from Mapleside Farms.
Hello.
And so we'll be getting to know him a little bit better and some of the things that he has planned, some big announcements and stuff like that. So,
exciting stuff for sure.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about, Greg, before we get into the really juicy stuff. How did you end up where you're at with that house over there and the beautiful acreage and stuff like that?
So good question. So I'd been going to Mapleside since I was a kid, since I was, like I remember, 3, 4, 5 years old. So I grew up in Brunswick, was born in Brunswick, grew up in Brunswick. I went to school at St. Ambrose, went to Brunswick High School, graduated from Brunswick. I commuted actually in college, went to the University of Akron for a year, then went to BW while I lived in Brunswick. So technically I've never moved out of the city, so 49 years in the city of Brunswick. But Mapleside was always that place, that like magical place. That was like Cedar Point, right? You'd go to Mapleside, the Johnny Appleseed Festival as a kid, you'd go to Cedar Point, same difference, right? Both like an experience, this thing with your family, this memory. So when I graduated from BW, I had a degree in business and marketing, and I got a job as a financial planner. And so I did that for 7 or 8 years. Like in my 20s, I did financial planning. I lived in Brunswick, got married 25 years ago. We just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary this year. So 25 years ago, we have 3 kids, 3 boys, 23, 24, 21, and 15. So our youngest is a sophomore in high school, Brunswick High School. But I did financial planning in my 20s, and then so I sort of realized after, like I think as a financial planner, you get a unique snapshot into what makes people tick. Like what are they excited about? Like trying to retire or financial freedom or right? We all have this vision in our head of the free life, like that time in the future when we have enough money to do what we want to do, when we want to do it, with who we want to do it with. So it's pretty cool. I had an appointment one day with a doctor who made a ton of money, but had no disposable income. And then on the same day, I met with a business owner in North Royalton, this guy who had a machine shop who made less than 100 grand a year, so not a huge income, but he had like $9 or $10 million in assets, mostly in real estate. So he took his disposable income and he was smart with it. He bought a small apartment building complex and then just sort of grew his real estate, portfolio. So that sort of got me excited. My family has a little bit of a construction background, so I grew up building houses. Like you'll see the Clement construction vans around the city and stuff. That's my brother, who's got that company. So he's a little bit older than I am. When I was in high school, I worked for them and my dad. But then I got into real estate, and so as an investor. And we were doing a lot of work when Cleveland was like the epicenter of the foreclosure crisis, going back like 2005, 6, 7, 8. We did a lot of real estate investing where we would negotiate short sales with people who were in foreclosure but owed sort of what their property was worth. So we would actually go to the bank and we would sort of help people out of that foreclosure situation by negotiating with the bank, buying the house and then fixing it up and reselling it. So we used our renovation experience background, and we did a lot of real estate deals in Northeast Ohio. Then we developed a software program to run our business, and that sort of became our main business. Right. Because we'd go to seminars across the country. I'd leave Brunswick or leave Cleveland, and you'd fly to Vegas or San Diego to try to learn a new technique or workshop or whatever, and we'd show people our software that we developed for our business, and they were like, man, I need that for my business. So it didn't take us too long to figure out that's a bigger opportunity.
There was your niche.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we started Real Flow, which is the name of the company. It's pretty cool. We can talk maybe in a little bit. We just moved it to Brunswick, which is cool, from Parma Heights. We were headquartered in Cleveland for the past 18 years, but just moved it to Brunswick the past year. Then with RealFlow, we do a lot of data and stuff, and then we realized that Mapleside, like was in foreclosure back then in 2009. Then they stopped it, and then they started back up in 2010. So we bought the farm before, like a week before it went to auction. So if I remember right, it was December 16th. It was set for auction, Medina County Sheriff's Sale 2010. We bought it on December 9th.
Wow.
And then we worked with the Isons. It was our intent never to develop it. You know, we heard the rumor that it was going to be developed, and right in hindsight, there were two big developers who were going to show up at the auction and buy the property.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And the city of Brunswick had already approved something like 220 houses. So a few years earlier. So the city of Brunswick had a site plan for like a couple hundred houses in the orchard. And so we feel blessed that we were able to, acquire the property and put sort of the conservationist hat on and just keep it. And it was our intention to, like the Isons had owned it for 100 years. We're like, hey, I wonder if we could own this thing for 100 years. Like, I wonder if we could pass it on to kids and kids and kids.
Yeah.
So that sort of gets you up to speed a little bit.
So some of the big changes that you've made since you've purchased the property, we know about the slides and the stuff like that, but then you've got, go ahead and tell us about the barn and the waterfall and all the others recently. You've made some huge changes.
So when we bought the farm, it came with a restaurant. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you ate at the restaurant, right? It was the Apple Farm
House,
restaurant.
yeah.
So Apple Farm restaurant. They had the Apple House, but they had the bakery. And so it came with the restaurant. So we were excited, and we're not restaurant people per se. And I think like if you're gonna own a restaurant straight up, that's gotta be your passion. That has to be like what you were born to do, or you gotta be extremely like motivated and interested in that business, because it can take over your life. I mean, you can easily work 70, 80 hours a week in a restaurant. And so what happened with us is when we took over the farm, we loved everything about the farm, but there were like 6 businesses operating. There was ice cream shop, there was the Apple House, there was the bakery, there was the restaurant, there was the wedding business, there was the concerts that they were doing outside, there was the festival. So there were like 7 different businesses that you sort of had to get your head around. Yeah. And even though the restaurant did well, like revenue wise, we still lost money every month in the restaurant, except for September, October. It sounds crazy, but that first year that we owned it, we shut it down for 6 months, opened it back up in June of 2011, opened up the whole farm, had this big grand opening celebration, and it was exciting as heck for sure. But man, that restaurant, we could never figure out the key, the formula to making money in the restaurant. So we ran it for 2 years. We actually had a friend of ours who's a restaurateur who's got like 5 or 6 restaurants in Cleveland, Scott Kuhn. So the Driftwood Restaurant Group, he gave it a go for 2 years. And it was just Mapleside. I think people are conditioned to come to Mapleside for an event, for something happening. They weren't necessarily conditioned to come for lunch on a Wednesday.
Right.
And so that's where we suffered, like that lunch business and that weekday business.
Your
the weekends were busy. Yeah.
Activity place kind of.
Yeah, exactly. So we made a decision in 2014. So after 4 years of running the farm pretty much as is, that we were going to quit swimming upstream. We were going to build the barn. So people loved the beauty of the farm. Like Mapleside's a beautiful place. It's the highest point, one of the highest points in the county. You have the orchard, you got the sunset due west, you've got the valley. I mean, it's just this authentically beautiful place. Matter of fact, 2011 voted America's most beautiful farm. There was this big nationwide contest, and we entered it, 10 farms, and we were lucky enough to win. So which was awesome. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. There was a horse farm in Kentucky, a winery in California. There was an orange grove in Florida, all farms all over the country. Mm-hmm. And we were in there for the apple orchard in Ohio, basically. Right. And we ended up winning it. So that was cool. But I think when we built the barn, we decided to take the restaurant, convert it to the lodge, and do weddings and events. And that's worked incredibly well the past 6 or 8 years. That's stabilized the property, if you will. I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, it's easy for everyone because I think everyone has an opinion on Mapleside, like what it used to be in the past, and it should be like that in the future. And we want to keep as much of the authenticity of the place intact for sure. but you also need to pay the property taxes, and you need to pay the mortgage, and
Right.
you need to pay your team, and so it's a very expensive property to run and maintain, because it's almost 150 acres, 146 acres in the middle of the city. So yeah, essentially we had to convert it to that event venue, and we've ran it that way for 6 to 8 years. But we've always had this sort of vision of like the highest and best use of the property is not necessarily to see houses in the orchard. It's right. It's like, what kind of business could we develop year round where like our complementary, like the festivals and the concerts could be enhancements. So what could we put in there? We've had some people take stabs at the bakery. We ran the Apple House as a farm market for a while, for years. Again, it's just people are more conditioned to go to Giant Eagle to shop for stuff that they need, not necessarily come to Mapleside to buy their produce anymore. So times have definitely changed. In about 2 or 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, actually, we got this idea for a winery because we did Vino the Way. Have you guys ever done the wine tasting in the
I have
Mason?
not, but
Yeah.
Tickets are they're always sold out. You can't.
Yeah, you have to. But pop me a message, even if we're sold out. Pop me a message.
You heard
for
that,
sure.
right?
Yeah,
You guys heard that.
Yeah, I'd love you guys to check that out. But Vino the Way sells out, so we're like, you know what? When you give people that experience, I think we're like this experiential generation now. We want those cool things that we can do with people we love. So this idea for a winery was like, let's start testing the soil, okay? And this is pretty crazy. What I'm about to tell you, this was crazy. So when we bought the farm, I wondered why Mapleside's apples were so huge. Mm-hmm. And the Isons would tell me, Dave and Bill Ison were like, it's the soil. So, right, the clay loam soil is just, and that's like a sandy, like sedimentary mix, like where the clay is right, it's just perfect for growing fruit, especially, okay? So when we started to test the soil samples a few years ago, we knew, obviously, for generations, apples are gonna grow amazing. We started to test it for grapes and other types of fruit, and it's like tests off the charts. And then when we started to do research for like the best wineries in the US, in North America, guess where one of the top rated wineries in the US is? It's just a question. Where do you think?
Geneva.
I was going to say Geneva.
I'm going to guess because
Yeah.
we're talking
'Cause
about
of all the
Because
wineries,
there's a ton of wineries,
Yeah.
but it's actually Coshocton.
Wow.
Coshocton, Ohio. So there's this vineyard and winery in Coshocton, which is like a couple hours away. It's called Heritage Vineyard. And Coshocton's about the same size of Brunswick, but there's 9 wineries in Coshocton.
Really?
Because of the soil. The soil is almost identical to ours. The height above sea level is right a little bit over 1,000 feet above sea level. Brunswick, Mapleside's like 1,100 or 1,200 feet. And then the seasons. So you start doing the research like we've been doing the past couple years, and you start realizing that Ohio wines, a lot of people associate wines, in Ohio is only like ice wines, like sweet wines. Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually completely untrue. Like this vineyard in Coshocton, so not too far away, they grow multiple varieties of wines, reds and whites, dries and like ice wines, sweet wines. And they have 1 or 2 of like the top rated wines in the country. Like that scores like a 99 on this wine scoring system. So yeah, I think you just start to get excited about the potential of what we could create there. So it was an easy decision to sort of want to do that. And I mentioned we bought that building right at the north end of our property, moved our companies from Parma Heights into the building this past year. I was actually, so a Sunday a package was delivered a few months ago, and I'm there, and James Justice was there too, sort of on our property. He's getting his property surveyed. I didn't even know he bought the property next to us, but he introduces himself. I've known Architectural Justice, and they do like incredible work for sure, but he was there, introduced himself, and he said he just bought the property. And he said he's going to put a winery in. And it was like serendipitous, because I'm like, are you serious? Like, we've been thinking about this for 2 years. We're actually opening up our winery like in the summer of 2024. So next year. He couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, I just think it's a pretty cool thing, like that north end of Brunswick, that Brunswick a corridor. Like, we don't view it as a competitive situation at all. I think what he's doing is completely independent.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to complement each other because
Yeah,
they're
I
going to
mean,
have
it's-
different
it's-
things. You're going to have
yeah, for
different
sure.
things.
Yeah.
And I want you to know that Lucas called it about Pearl Road. Tell them about.
Like about 6 to 9 months ago, I said 2024 is going to be the year that Pearl Road really rebuilds itself. You know, we redid the street. Now the businesses along that road are going to be able
Because we have
to.
Market
Yeah.
42 coming in down at
Yeah.
the other end, and then
Yeah.
you know you guys making changes and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, that's crazy,
So
for sure.
you were-
That's good prediction.
You were able to save Mapleside as an attraction. We can still drive down 71. You got the sign that says attraction, Mapleside. Where are you going to fit all these grapes?
Grapes.
Yeah. So that's a great question. When we knew we were going to make the decision to move forward with the winery, we started to look at other like farms around Northeast Ohio. And it was this crazy moment again. A year ago, we took over Caro's. So Caro's is that property, Caro's Event Center. And I think you mentioned you know that property
It used to be a
well.
campground. I
Yeah.
know it very well.
Yeah.
It used to be a campground, and I literally grew up there. We lived in Middleburg Heights, and my parents would commute to work, and then we would stay out there all summer long. And
Yeah, it's so
we had
crazy.
several campers out there, and we were out there for the the tornado. I think it was back in the 70s and stuff like that. And our camper actually was one of the ones that went over the hill.
Oh my gosh.
And we took my mom back probably about 5 years ago before she passed, and just had some good memories there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so you guys purchased that.
Yeah, so Caro's, Dorothy and Angelo had passed away. They left the property to Jeff, their son, and then he continued running it as an event venue essentially for parties and weddings. And then he made the decision to sell it, I don't know, call it 2 years ago. I want to say there was talk of Drees Homes or a couple big developers putting
Right.
putting as many houses
that,
as they
yeah.
could fit in there. And Caro's so when we bought it, I mean, it's 124 acres. So it's a big piece of property. And it's not in Brunswick, technically. It's the first property in Medina Township.
Okay.
But it's right, like our property line is right on the border. So our vision for Caro's is to do some type of development to keep the event venue going, to renovate that, but also to add the vineyard, to add a lot of grapes and use it agriculturally to sort of feed the winery at Mapleside, if that makes sense. So now we'll have two sort of complementary properties. Both will be available for events and weddings and things like that. But as far as the winery, like the public, place that you could go to for, it's going to be an eatery too. It's not just going to be wine and beer. It's going to be that winery, that eatery concept. I'm sure you've heard of Gervasi or Michelangelo's. Like,
Sure.
you've been to either one of those. I think they do an incredible job with that wine experience, but also people want to eat, right? You want to go somewhere for dinner and you want to eat dinner with your wine, and you might stay after and change your wine selections or whatever. But we're excited about bringing this incredible new experience to Brunswick. And that includes on the 18th. So next week, we're in front of Brunswick Planning Commission. And so I think the city of Brunswick, we keep our finger on the pulse of everything that's happening too, but we're focused on our businesses for sure. I think as an entrepreneur, you got to be focused on what you're doing. But we know what's going on in the community for sure. I think the city of Brunswick, sometimes it gets this, I don't even want to call it a bad rap, but like anti-development or anti-progress, hard to
Right.
work with. Yeah, I think the city is very easy to work with. It's a city. Any city that you work in, because I have experience in real estate and help coaching people all over the country on developing projects, big or small, the city has a box of rules that you have to follow. And it's sort of for the benefit to make sure that things progress the right way, that everyone will continue to love living in the city.
Sure.
So I think Brunswick's been great to work with. And so one of the first things that we're doing, because we're doing the winery in 2 phases. So the first phase is, if you can imagine like standing on the deck of the lodge or the back parking lot. We call it the back parking lot. So that's where you'd pull in to watch a sunset.
Right.
So that part of the farm has always been like, when I've stood on the deck of the lodge up high, you overlook the orchard, but you have cars in front of you. So I talked to the Isons about this. When they put the roadside fruit stand up in like the 30s, that was where the ice cream shop is right now. So they put it as close to Pearl Road as possible. Okay, that was the original roadside fruit stand. And then you can imagine in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, they kept adding on. Like they added the bakery in the gift shop. They built the barn behind it. We call it the warehouse. They added the Apple Farm restaurant, I think 1984. But they just kept going down Pearl Road. If you could wipe everything away from Mapleside and be like, okay, how are we going to build the perfect setup? Where are we going to put the buildings and the parking? You definitely put all the parking up front, and you would put the buildings sort of where the parking is in the back, so you had that view. So nothing was interfering with the beautiful view and the sunsets. So what our intention is to do landscaping, some major landscaping, and remove a lot of the parking spaces in the back and call that the Grove. So our vision for that is the Grove. And that would be, so that's a few acres, and we plant a ton of grapes there, but also make cool like nooks and the seating areas, like with stones and rocks, and like sort of reclaim that parking back to its natural state. So that's like phase one.
You have those other lots next door, so there's plenty of parking.
Yeah, we've done
parking
more
still,
parking, exactly.
So you'll be good that way.
Yeah.
And so what is the actual, like what will be over at the other property?
So Caro's, or okay. So that has an event venue space still.
Correct.
So we're renovating that. So we're improving that, and then we're going to use it for a lot of agriculture. There's a few houses on that property already, and we're thinking, I guess, strategically, it would be great to have enough money to buy every big piece of land in Ohio and not ever do anything with it because you can just sit on it. But I think when you look at it as a business, like that has property taxes, that has expenses, that's going to have payroll. So I do think a portion of that is going to have to be developed creatively. Like there's a lot of frontage on Pearl Road. So we're still, because that's a newer property to us, so we're still putting those ideas together.
Well, don't rush.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly, yeah. I don't think so. We have our hands full this year for sure. Okay, with phase one of the winery, because phase two is when we're going to start building like little buildings and barns on the property, which will be like, we have this vision for what we call the porch.
Okay.
So you know where the slide is? You mentioned the slide.
Yeah.
So imagine like right a little bit east of the slide.
Okay.
So right where the back corner of the parking lot is, this gorgeous barn within like an open courtyard area out to the Grove. But this big wraparound deck overlooking the concerts, the orchard, the sunset. And that our vision is to call that the porch, have it be like that back porch feeling for the summer and the fall. So we'll have the lodge as the main winery, but then we'll have some different things you could like go to. You could meet somebody at the porch, you could meet somebody at the lodge, you can meet somebody in the Apple House, but the bakery, we're gonna reinvent the bakery again. So yeah, we're excited about it for sure.
That is
a
lot.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Sounds like a great vision for the future of Mapleside.
Yeah. And again, I think it's like, how do we conserve this property? Like what is its highest and best use? And in real estate, oftentimes when appraisers or agents and brokers look at highest and best use, it's like, how do we develop? How do we add more homes or get more density in? Our vision is like highest and best use, we think, is hopefully keep it as a farm for the next 100 years. Like we really want to run businesses there that match the property type. And trust me, everybody's got an idea for like what should go at Mapleside. Like,
you think?
Like mini golf.
We hear that all the time.
We've heard 100, ideas. And a lot of them are good ideas if you weren't doing this thing. Like, miniature golf course would be cool, but if you're going to do a wedding, those don't match up.
Yeah. Sure.
Right.
It's got all
I think we've got
together.
to. Yeah, exactly. There's got to be a strategy to it. So we think
do need that though.
Yeah, I know. We probably do.
You got that other property
do.
now.
Yeah.
You could put, maybe in the front. You said
you never know.
Pearl
Exactly.
Road.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Like Pearl Road is I don't even want to say making a comeback. I think it's going to establish itself as like a main corridor. Even like it's never probably going to be as commercialized as 303 because you have the highway. But what connects Medina to Strongsville? I mean, it's Hinckley to Valley City is less populated than like right? So I mean, I think it's super important to do that right, for sure.
Well, and I think I speak for everybody. We have almost 30,000 people on the page now, so
Yeah, that's crazy.
we're just happy it's not Dollar General or
Yeah.
Auto Parts or
Yeah.
not
Pizza
that,
shop.
or a pizza
Yeah.
shop. Not that we
We may
you know,
we may serve some
don't want-
flatbread pizzas at the winery. So who
You
knows?
know
kick you out
what?
of
What
town.
about a
Who
fire
knows? Who knows?
oven? You know,
Yeah.
one of those pizza ovens.
We have 3. So when we bought the property, it came that the Isons had 3 Blodgett ovens, old school Blodgett pizza ovens, and we've been offered, like, people will walk in there that know ovens, no pizza, and they'll look at it, right? And they've made cash offers like on the spot, and we're not currently using them, but we plan on integrating that into the winery. I guess
Nice.
these ovens are incredible for pizza, for flatbreads, for stuff like that.
All right.
Blodgett's.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Anything else that you want to, we're going to wrap it up. Anything else that you want to leave us with? You just mentioned that you have some other businesses and you
Yeah.
moved them to Brunswick.
Yeah, I
So-
think, so we moved, so my software company, our technology company is called RealFlow. And I started that company in 2006, so 18 years ago, which I can't believe it's that long. But we're basically real estate investing software and data. So we have a spin-off of RealFlow called LeadFlow, so leadflow.com and realflow.com. But both technology companies, we've moved those from like the Cleveland area to Brunswick. We bought the building so it was a church right next to the hot dog place. So right at the north end of the farm. And actually the back of the building sort of connects to Pumpkin Trail, which is part of our farm, which is how you get down into the North Orchard and stuff. So we have a nonprofit, Remarkable Youth, that we just set up last year, which, like, it's my belief. So I grew up with a speech impediment. So I had this operation as a kid. I had a hernia. And I went in the hospital, and they didn't give me enough anesthesia. So I woke up before as they're like wheeling me out of the operating room. So it was a pretty traumatic event at like 5 years old. And my mom wasn't there. And my mom like said, "I'll be here when you wake up," type thing. And the guy, like the nurse, the male nurse, was so surprised that I woke up, this 5-year-old kid. He just pushed me in the hallway and he left me there. And I don't know if I was there for an hour or whatever, but I tried to yell and I couldn't yell. So like my speech, my mom says that's when you got the stutter. So as a kid, I had this terrible stutter, like St. Ambrose and all throughout high school. But I think it's unique. I think it's like if I could go back in time and remove it, I wouldn't do it, because I think it gave me that ability just to overcome fear every day of my life. Because when you can't talk right, that's like a disability. And you learn to just, right, you learn to just keep getting up. You get knocked down, you keep getting up over and over and over again. So one of the cool things with Remarkable Youth is that our goal is to increase the confidence in children and young adults. So increase the confidence and help them do remarkable things. So we're working on all this. So working on some technology, some mobile apps that help kids find their purpose, find their unique abilities. There's this wonderful concept the Japanese have called ikigai. So it is the crossroads of what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, and what the world needs. And they say the center of that is like purpose. And so like helping young kids, I think a lot of young kids, I did, struggle with, when you're in high school, like what do you want to do? I wasn't good enough to play in the NBA. I wasn't, So you have like directionally you might know you want to be this way, but you're afraid to take that step and start walking. So I think if we can help bring some more clarity to kids, like children in grade school, junior high, and high school, we can really, right, and increase their confidence by giving them direction. We can really help them do remarkable things. So we're extremely excited about Remarkable Youth. We did that Joey Chestnut thing for this summer, and we basically took all the proceeds from that day and put it into the foundation, and so a bunch of cool stuff. I know we have a bunch of cool charities like H2O in Brunswick, and what Jim and Eric do there and their whole team. But we're super excited about Remarkable
Sounds
Youth,
amazing.
for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that a little bit more and let everybody know what that's about.
Absolutely. We'd love to, for sure.
I think that's about it for
That's
us,
it. I
right?
really
I
appreciate you
man.
coming
I
to
appreciate
talk to us.
hopping on and
appreciate
talking to
your
you
time.
guys.
Thank
Good.
you very much. We hope you all enjoyed our special edition here of Brunswick Group Therapy. Thanks for tuning in, and good things happen in Brunswick. Good things happening. So
Indeed.
stick with us.
See you guys.
Take care.
As always, I want to thank you for checking out the Brunswick Group Therapy podcast and for supporting local Brunswick area businesses. If you enjoyed your time, please check us out online at brunswickgrouptherapy.com, where you can continue the conversation with a voice message that may be featured on future podcast episodes or posts. You can also follow us on our Brunswick Group Therapy social media pages on both YouTube and Facebook. If you own or manage an area business and would like to be featured in an upcoming Brunswick Group Therapy podcast, please reach out to Kimberlee or I through any of our social media pages. We are passionate about supporting local, and it's the reason for this podcast.
Thank you for joining us for another therapy session. A reminder that the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants and do not represent any business, group, employer, or organization. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only.